Yo, this is George Dr. Funkenstein Clinton, and you're listening to Danny on Everything. He got that doo-doo.
Yoo-hoo, melting it down like a piece of gold. I've been bought and I've been sold, feeling not so special now. You make me feel special now. Well, I wanna win on a dime, 'cause it's my time.
Hello out there in radio land, in podcast land, in audio land. My name is Daniel Bedrosian, and you are listening to Danny on Everything. I'm so glad to be back talking at everyone, with everyone, for everyone. And we're really proud to have our June episode debuting right now, the June episode, and I couldn't have asked for a better couple of guests for my June episode. First and foremost, God, so excited about this. My boss, one of my biggest heroes, someone who I consider family, Mr. George Clinton, Dr. Funkenstein, the Maggot Overlord, Mr. Wiggles, Uncle Jam, Oil Jones. He got a new Parliament album coming out, or should I say we got a new Parliament album coming out, produced by the aforementioned genius, Mr. George Clinton, and it's called Medicaid Fraud Dog. It actually dropped officially on May 22nd, and everybody can get it now. They can download it, iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, wherever you get your music, wherever you download your music, download it. It's 23 songs, 2-disc. It is an incredible foray into the things musically and conceptually that George is doing now. I'm super proud of it. I have to say, and this is just my opinion, it's my favorite album that I've done with George. I'm extremely excited about the results, and I can't say enough about it. So we're going to have George on the show today. Oh my God, amazing. It's just such a huge honor. And we're going to talk to George about his storied 63-plus year career as the leader of the Parliament Funkadelic thing and Fang, and really delve into all kinds of different experiences and some background and some information about what makes the man tick and all the great things that are the world of P-Funk. And really excited about that. And also on the show today, we have a dear friend of mine. I consider him one of the best chefs in the world, probably my favorite chef. And I'm that's speaking with absolutely no bias. It's based completely on my taste buds. Chef Matt Hagel, absolute genius of culinary arts. The owner and operator, head chef at the Chophouse on the Bricks in Thomasville, Georgia. It's an amazing restaurant. I highly recommend that you guys go out there and check it out. It is an absolutely incredible dining experience. So we're going to have both of these fine gentlemen on the show today, talking to these guys and chewing the fat, so to speak. Terrible food joke. Sorry, Chef Matt. But it's going to be absolutely incredible, and like I said, I just couldn't be more honored and humbled by the presence of both of these gentlemen. I have high respect for both of them, and really excited to have them both on the show. And if you guys are excited about me having them on the show, and you're excited about hearing what they have to say, please sponsor us. DannyOnEverything.com. Go to the sponsor button. You can hit it. You can donate your money. You can 1 cent, $10 trillion. It doesn't matter. Anything in between is great. I love it. And I really appreciate everybody's support and help and listening to this show. It really means the world to me. So we're going to get into some music now. I thought it'd be appropriate to play one of my tunes from the new Secret Army album that features George, actually, as well as a few other people. It's called There's No Reason to Rehearse This. Came out from the Eightfinity album that was released late last year. Daryl Spielman on the drums, Dwayne Dungy on the bass, Michael Hampton on lead guitar, myself on keys, Mr. George Clinton, our first guest, on the vocals, as well as Mr. Steve Boyd on the vocals. And it's a really fantastic song. I'm very proud of it, and you're going to check it out right now. So the song, There's No Need to Rehearse This. Just like we have no need to rehearse this show, it's good enough just as it is. You love it. You're listening to Danny on Everything.
Ain't no reason to rehearse this. We already know this. This will be don't miss. You and me. Ain't no reason to rehearse this. We already know this. This will be don't miss. You and me, loving you. Ain't no reason to rehearse this. We already know this. This will be don't miss. Keeping step with each other. We already know this. We've always been together in sync, and our we already know this. The practice is in the zone on your own. We already know this. And just in case you think we might get out of step, all the time we've kept into each other, on each other's mind. In the zone, you're on and you're free. You see, there's no practice this, no precepts to relax with this. You and me. We already know this. Tell another. There's no reason to rehearse this. We already know this. All time and all time. There's no reason to practice spontaneity. We already know this. Step by step, this time. We gonna make it this time. Just count it off.
a step ahead of this. We don't need to rehearse this. Oh, there ain't no reason to get together for the show anytime. Ooh, yeah. Oh, no. Everybody together. You want some? We already know this. This movie don't miss. Improvise, help me. I'm yours and you're mine. The show must go on. Step by step.
And we are back to Danny on Everything. It is my greatest, most absolute pleasure, my highest, happiest honor to be introducing on the show for the first time a living legend, the maggot overlord, Dr. Funkenstein, Mr. George Clinton. What's going on, George?
And all that shit.
And all that shit.
I've been defleed, de-ticked. I got my rabies shot, and I'm ready to bury the bone. As usual.
As usual. George, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Good
we really
to be
appreciate
here,
it.
man. Damn, we had a hard time finding this joint.
Okay.
We hid back up here in the woods. Yeah, we found you.
Nice. Well, we're really excited because, as many people know, there is, for the first time in 38 years, a new Parliament album.
Yeah.
With the Parliament moniker.
Yeah, we picked up from trumpulation and on into the future and see that the future is still one nation under sedation. Mm-hmm. Drugs still the main thing. You know, legal is worse than street drugs nowadays. So yeah, that's what we're singing about.
And really haven't missed a step from Trumpulation, because I'm really glad you brought that up, because it almost feels like, and being lucky enough to have heard this music already, it almost feels like nothing has, like, it's Trumpulation, and now you got Medicaid Fraud Dog.
Yeah,
like,
but
there's postmodernism,
yeah,
but it hasn't missed a step in terms of what Parliament means, the idea of concept, and the idea of sort of taking lyrics and making concepts that mean something that allow you to dance
have
at
a
the same
theme
time.
to it. Have a theme to it. But everything is about, insurance or drug this or drug prices or somebody catching a case trying to get paid or somebody selling drugs on the street or big pharmaceutical companies giving away pills, to the doctors for them to give to the patients.
Get them addicted.
Get everybody addicted. I mean, it's all the same thing, depending on who's playing the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love the fact that concept is still so important and production is still so important, because you really hear that in this album.
Yeah, well, that's what I tried to stay true to that, especially with Parliament, because we Did that with Motor Booty Affair.
Right.
Mothership Connection, Clones. In Trumpipulation, you know, Sir Nose was reflecting on his DNA and
Right.
trying to claim some rights through his nose channels.
Yeah, you said he was jiving before Piltdown.
Yeah, he was, you know, so he's up here in the digital world nowadays,
Right.
you know, still, you know, and trace this shit all the way back into animal DNA.
Oh, right.
He's sniffing like a dog now.
Nice.
Hanging out with some dogs.
It's amazing. Now, musically, what can fans of Parliament's music expect? What does it sound
but
like?
It still got, you know, that musical, even though it's up to date with the other sounds and things, we still got, you know, you got your Fred Westleys and the Florida State's horn players.
Right. Florida State University, yeah.
You know, and Whit from FAMU here. You know, we got lots of horns on it. Right. Then we got you guys, you know,
right.
Blackbird McKnight, the P-Funk horns, and Lodge Curry, all of the old fellas. But then we got that young set, my grandkids, plus Bouvier 13. We from Tallahassee here. We got a whole new team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this like brand new Parliament Funkadelic, but it's Parliament album, so they play a big part on it. You got Ken Apple Red, which is my granddaughter's. You're Naked.
Yep, Naked 87.
Naked 87. You know, so you got a bunch of stars on there now.
Right.
You know, you got a bunch of young stars and that's ready to, I mean, you know, the Traphael on the rock, heavy metal thing. You know, it's just a whole brand new thing with the way all that stuff mixed, you know.
Nice.
And on this album, Tracy did a lot of the writing of the songs.
Right.
So he got off on this, got to see his sons, and his granddaughter.
Right.
You know, perform his you know, my daughter's album, perform stuff on the album. So they clean it up.
It's fantastic.
You showed your ass on that. You took well fit the shoes of what Bernie was doing back in the day.
Thank you.
You definitely did that. I mean, that's coming from all the other musicians in the band too.
Thank you.
They all say, "Oh hell yeah, no, you stepped up on that shit."
Oh, thank you. It was my absolute pleasure and honor, and what an honor it is to play on that beautiful grand piano of yours that was restored a few years ago. It's just to have the real piano. It really feels like Parliament too, because
that's the other thing that makes it feel like
piano.
Yeah,
like that
real piano on it. I forgot about. We did a lot of live stuff on this record.
Yeah.
You know,
musicians and production people alike will like the vibe. It's both postmodern and contemporary, and also organic, if you will.
Right. Then we got, you know, people like Scarface,
right,
contributing to I'm Gonna Make You Sick,
right,
Mudbone Cooper from Rubber Band. All of that gives it a brand new old feeling.
Yeah, sure. And speaking of I'm Gonna Make You Sick, the music video dropped just recently.
Right.
And what's really exciting about that is something that I didn't even really think of till just now. It's kind of, I mean, other than the one they did for Mothership Connection back in the day that was done later or whatever, this is really kind of the first music video for Parliament. You know what I mean? For that name, for the Parliament name.
Yeah, you're right. You know what, you're right. Because, I mean, even Up for the Downstroke.
Wait, there was that one.
That was a commercial.
Commercial, right.
That wasn't even a video per se. We just cut it because video technology was just showing up.
Right.
That was Joyce Neal's wife to be at that time.
Oh.
She was directing us out, and we was just out in the village in New York clowning, filming me walking through the street with those big boots on.
Yep.
And we made a commercial out of it, which we did all of our own commercials.
It's awesome.
You know, I saw a bunch of the commercials for each one of those albums.
Yeah.
And they weren't, like you said, the video didn't come out when Atomic Dog was out.
Right, when you're doing your solo career,
Yeah,
starting
that
the Capitol career,
yeah,
so that's when videos, yeah.
But they had a lot of footage because we filmed a lot of this shit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's where they were able to get so much of that from. But what a cool thing to add to the concept. Now people are visualizing a Parliament song for the first time in a way that they never had before, just because of the time, you know.
Right.
Speaking of the times, the sign of the times, you have people like Childish Gambino, Kendrick Lamar, Mark Ronson. These are just a few of the names of some of the biggest folks in the game right now, and they all take several cues from you. Every up-and-coming and established artist takes a different cue from your different periods. It must be funny or interesting when somebody recognizing you for one song or one style says, oh, now that's the P-Funk right there, that's that, because your discography is so huge. So when you hear it, what do you think? You know?
That's been true for a long time.
Yeah.
What's it called, G-Funk, the West Coast, they identify with a certain period of, the synthesizers, Bernie's playing, or that knee-deep One Nation flashlight, more bounce to the ounce, which was all part of when we did all those records. We did them all pretty much within a year and a half of each other.
Sure.
That's how they recognize, how they identify Dre, and Q, and that's the G-Funk.
Mm-hmm.
On the East Coast, you may have a lot of Funkadelic from the Free Your Mind album, the first Funkadelic album. Any standing on the verge, like Public Enemy or Rakim. They had Alice in My Fantasies.
Yeah, Get Off Your Ass and Jam.
Get Off Your Ass and Jam.
Yeah.
A lot of those sound effects was used in a lot of the East Coast. Then you got the Digital Underground, who did their own parody records.
Right.
Which made a whole new record. I mean, Humpty Dance is like phenomenal.
Right. Let's Play House.
That Let's Play House. That's and they was good at that. All around the world, same song.
Right. And it's interesting how we used to make a joke how it depends on what part of the song it is, whether the East Coast or the West Coast, like Knee Deep. The East Coast rappers sample that part A, that the De La Souls and things like that.
Right.
But the second part, that's the West Coast. They sample that part, but it's the same song. People wouldn't even know. In your 63-year-long, mostly unprecedented length of career, you and the group have overseen somewhere around, and this includes singles and albums both, somewhere over 500 releases that can be considered the P-Funk canon, quote unquote. This canon is bigger than most bands or acts, or even bigger than most ideas. You can compare it to something like Star Wars before you can compare it to another artist. Does that feel the same way to you, or do you just feel like you're moving through the...
That's when we started change from Parliament to Parliament and Funkadelic. Remember, it was a Funkadelic mint thing.
Right.
It was a thing. It wasn't a group.
Right.
It wasn't a Broadway play, a movie. It was a thing.
Yeah.
It was whatever that became. That, and it's been things ever since.
Right.
We had all kind of incarnations of the thing.
Right.
From the doo-wop days to the P-Funk, make my funk the P-Funk, to what hip-hop did to us, Atomic Dog and Fries go with that shade, maggot, we've been all over. And then offshoots like Bernie's album,
right,
or the Bride's album,
right,
or Bootsy's albums,
Eddie's album,
those was all phenomenal side things that that a lot of people to find out about real late.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But as people discover these things, though, it's sort of part of the extra vitality of the band, because if somebody can, a lot of people are collectors out there, a lot of Westerners, and when I say the West, I include Japan in that. People like to collect. They like things, And P-Funk is one of those situations where you are probably never going to be able to get all the albums. So for a true fan, it's the ultimate.
You're always going to be bumping into one of those, like a Bobby Gillespie.
Right.
Yeah. One of those type records. I forget some of the songs I've done with people, and they show up, really later on in your life. Yeah. You say, damn, I did that. Wow, I forgot about that.
That being said, your memory is pretty damn impeccable when it comes to remembering sessions, who played on what.
Oh, yeah, once I get a hint as to what it is, what it is, I'm all the way in it.
Right, exactly. And just to drive this further home for people who don't know about the music, just in my 15 years playing keyboards for you, I was going through the list of like songs via the albums that we've done, even if we did it once in just my time. And there's tons that the band did way before my time. But I counted somewhere around 600 songs that we have snuck in, performed, rehearsed, maybe only played once, but total, like 600.
Wow.
That's just...
Yeah, you keep track of a lot.
Trying. I'm trying just to give people, an idea. But going back to what you were saying, too, about, starting with the doo-wop and then moving through into Motown and psychedelia and metal and punk and funk and R&B and all these different things, dance music, hip-hop, it's a lot like how Miles was in jazz, in that it was sort of informing the next step.
It's weird you say that, because I met him. His last seemed to be really energetic thing that he was getting into. Yeah, was Prince and hip hop at the same time. Right. He did a few good songs with Prince. They'll probably come out now. I think the whoever running the catalog now seem to be letting stuff out. Yeah. But he had some jams with with Miles, Prince and Miles. And Miles also was the same way with hip hop. He knew that whatever kids was into, that's the new music. You might as well get your clock tuned to that. You're right. I don't care what what you think is hip, and you getting old. Yeah. Whatever them little kids are saying is gonna be it. Right. That's gonna be it. Right. So if you got a good ear for what they look like they coming from or where they going, you'll recognize Cardi B. Right. Miles would have been on her next record. Right. Yeah, for sure. With no problem. With the openness he had. Yeah. A lot of people, that ain't music. As soon as you hear musicians or old people saying that ain't music, that's probably the hit record. Right, sure. And, I figure that one out. You don't even have to be that smart, because kids love what gets on your nerve. Exactly. And so that, okay, I'm right with them. As soon as they like something, I'm down with him. Down with him, yeah. It makes me think of Bach, the composer, because when the piano came out, he said, nah, it's not going to do anything. The piano is a toy. This is never going to take off. Because he played harpsichord and clavichord. And organ. Right. But nowadays, every single person who's playing not everybody, but when people play his music, a lot of times, what do they play it on? A piano. So he'd probably be turning over in his grave thinking about it. But it's funny too, because it took his kids, he had like 14 kids, it took his kids, who about 7 of them were composers, to use the piano, be like, okay, well, Dad might have been wrong about this. I'm going to compose with this instrument. You know what I mean? It's funny with the successive generation. That's even funny. Like you say, harpsichord. Now Bernie played the piano and the organ. We always liked him playing the harpsichord, because that sounded like a toy. Yeah, no, absolutely. But he knew just how it was played in the classical days. Right. So when he played a little part that sounded like a kid's piano, the coloring, you can tell, no, this ain't. he know too many notes for that.
Yeah.
Kid piano. He played harpsichord very good.
Yes.
You know, in '68 and '9 when rock and roll and classical was combining, you know, Emerson, Lake and Palmer,
Right.
King Crimson, all of that stuff. He pointed out all the classical moves they was making
Right.
back then.
Wow.
And so we threw it right in the middle of funk. Nobody didn't know what we was doing anyway.
Right.
So that made Funkadelic Nerve, you know, oh, that's Funkadelic. And that was my intention, not to be put into a position where I got to count on the next single.
Right.
You know, forget that and just make all of them, you know, I'm out of the contest in the beginning. As soon as they come out, they're too long and everything. So you ain't got to look at them like that. You got to look at them for what they are. It took us a long time to get started with that. Like, we were too black for white folks and too white for black folks.
Right. Check that out.
You know what I'm saying? That took us a long time. But as the people that like you for you get larger and larger, we still like an underground group to this day.
Right.
And had millions of hit records.
Exactly. And I think it's also that conundrum of what you said about too black for the whites, too white for the blacks. I think over time, a bunch of people felt that way themselves. And so therefore P-Funk became even more valuable and meaningful and worthwhile to them on like a social, intellectual level.
Now we're experiencing that, and that's what people are placing it. It was such an experience, or has been such an experience, or it is such an experience with the young kids.
Right.
You know, you see how young they are.
Yeah.
They come to see the show now.
Yeah.
It's like, it's an experience. It's a thing.
Yeah. And it's great when it's like 60 to 70% of the audience might be people who've never seen the show.
Yeah.
What an amazing, what an incredible statistic that is.
All it, and no matter where you're at, it's like that.
Yep. And you know, also there's the overall diversity and internationalness of it, for lack of a better word. There, we look at the crowd. What's the audience? You know, in some places it might be more one way than another.
Yeah. Well, you notice how I picked the songs.
They're based on what the audience.
What the audience look like.
Brilliant.
What do they look like? How do they? And that's age, nationality, how much fun they look like they're ready to have.
Language.
You know, what
region.
A rock club.
Yeah.
A casino where everybody comes through is tourists. And
right.
all of that has to be judged at the it's an old school show.
Right.
Is it on the boat with Tom Joyner?
Right.
And these people, all they want to hear is the song they heard when they were in college.
Exactly.
So you have to know that stuff.
Different nostalgia sets, different experience sets, different.
Yeah, who don't care what you play.
Right, those people. They're the best ones.
Yeah, you can go there,
do whatever you want.
And do a whole Motown set, and they could care less. They be trying to figure out which song it is.
Right. And what a blessing to have, to see an audience and it be mixed like that. And then also just to have, like what we said about, like, you could go one day and we could play a show in, let's just say, Ohio, and it could be all black or mostly black.
Yeah,
and then
school.
we could go to the next state. It could be Wisconsin or something, and it might be all white or mostly white. And just the fact that, I don't want to say we can afford to do it, but that we have the ability to go from one place to the next, and those demographics to be that different, and yet they're both there to see you.
Come right back to the city and play another part of town, and they don't judge us by where he's playing that. I mean, some people might not want to come to this particular gig.
Sure.
But that solid P-Funk fan, they're gonna be at both of them.
Yes, they're gonna be. It's an incredible concept and idea, and I think that so many people just gravitate towards it because of that. Let me ask you this, George: have you ever been interviewed by a member of the band before? Besides,
I was interviewed by myself.
I seen that one. That was incredible. That blew my mind.
Me and Bootsy tried it a couple of times, but we always were so clowny.
Right.
We did all those commercials and things. You know, we made the records out of the commercials.
Right.
And so we was actually interviewing each other. Another one I was looking at today, we was doing that at a radio station. I had a certain nose on, and I was
The video you're talking about? It's incredible.
I was just clowning me, Felipe, Maceo, all of us standing in the hallway of this radio station.
Yeah.
That's like spontaneous, but yeah, we did a lot of that. We didn't use it too much.
Right. So now I'm going to ask you just a couple more quick questions. These are the sort of psychoanalyst type questions that I ask my most interesting guests. And they're all pretty quick and pretty banal and easy. But I asked Clip these questions. I asked Lige, and I immediately thought of you when I was first presented these questions. So starting with the first one, what sound or noise do you love?
Squish.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Friction. Chalk on the water.
Yeah,
smeared on the glass.
If you were in no ways connected to music, the entertainment industry as it stands, what job, separate from that, would you have liked to have done?
Would I have liked?
Yeah. If you weren't in entertainment at all.
Oh, shit. Damn.
That just tells me right there that you did the right thing.
No shit. No shit.
You obviously picked
Because I done went all in outer space and ain't found nothing. I mean, I'm thinking about it, but
Okay, cool. No, that's a good answer. But here's the opposite now. What job of all jobs would you just say, no, I cannot, I will never, I would never do it?
That's just as hard.
It's even harder.
That's just hard.
Okay, and then the final one is, when you reach the pearly gates 106 years from now, and you see Peter there, with the notebook and the gate there, and he looks up at you. What do you want to be told when you reach the pearly gates?
We got that doo-doo.
Nice. George Clinton. George, it is an amazing pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. And we just want to announce that the new Parliament album, Medicaid Fraud Dog, is available now everywhere that music is downloaded, everywhere that music is sold. I highly, highly urge all of you to go out there and download it, buy it, check it out. We're actually going to play a few of the songs right now. 3 of the songs from the new Parliament album, Medicaid Fraud Dog. Oil Jones is the first one. The second one, Antisocial Media. And the third, Pain Management. George, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, man, good man. I'll be back, man.
Nice. This is Danny on Everything.
Like dinosaur bones, deep beneath your feet.
Everything used to go to my head, now go to my ass. My booty, I'm working on my booty. All them things used to go to my head, now it all go to my ass. My booty, I'm working on my booty. Hiney in, hiney out, hiney in, hiney out, hiney up, hiney down. Now let me work it all around. Suck that gut in, bitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Suck that gut in, bitch. Lazy hoes hit the door. Suck that gut in, bitch. Unos, dos, tres, cuatro. Suck that gut in, bitch. Beyonce figure is nacho. The Derek's pop band.
Oh, John, deeper than dinosaur bones. Fracking, the world is cracking. Oil spill, making a killing, drilling in the oil field. Piping, pumping, trucking, and fucking.
The Derek's pump band. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lazy hoes, hit the door.
Paul Jones,
Suck that gut in, bitch.
deep like dinosaur bones.
Everything used to go to my head, now go to
Deeper
my
than deep.
ass. My booty, I'm working
Beneath
on
your
my
feet.
booty. All them things used to go to my head, now it all go to my
Cracking.
ass. My booty, I'm working on my booty.
Your world is cracking.
The lyrics pumping. All day long. Work on this, 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 work on this. Don't stop till you get it right. Work on this, 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 work on this. Don't stop till you get it right.
Oil Jones, deeper than dinosaur bones.
You come jump a Jackson Lane, even if you find a
Beneath
chain.
your
But
feet.
remember this refrain: no pain, no gain. Break down and give me 50. Break down and give me 50. No pain, no gain. Squat down and give me 40. Squat down and give me 40. No pain, no gain. Stoop down and give me 30. Stoop down and give me 30. No pain, no gain. Break down and give me 20. Break down and give me 20. Go down and give me 10, and you owe me a 10. Suck that gut in, bitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Suck that gut in, bitch. Lazy hoes, hit the door. Suck that gut in, bitch.
Deeper than dinosaurs.
3, 4. Suck that gut in, bitch. Beyonce's figure is nachos.
Beneath your feet. Vaseline victory. The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
You can stand and twist, sit and spin, but it won't get rid of that double shit.
Smoking that orange.
Everything used to go to my head, now go to my ass. My booty, my booty, I'm working on my booty. All them things used to go to my head, now it all go to my ass. My booty, I'm working on my booty. Hide it up, hide it up, hide it down, hide it down, hide
Like
it up,
dinosaur bones.
hide it down, hide it down, hide it in, hide it in, hide it out, hide it out.
Beneath your
Let me see you work it all around.
deeper than deep.
That in, bitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Suck that gut in, bitch. Lazy hoes, hit the door. Suck that gut in, bitch. Unos, dos, tres, cuatro.
Like
Suck that
dinosaur
gut in,
bones.
bitch. Beyonce's figure is nachos.
Deep. Beneath your feet.
You can stand and twist, sit and spin, but it won't get rid of that double shit. Come on with some chin-ups. Got some chin-ups. Pull some chin-ups. If you got a fat ass, you want to thin up.
Anti-social media is a sickness. I can cope. My Twitter finger is itching like I'm on dope. So I'm scratching at an itch out of reach. Bloggers a bitch, so I tweet. And my Twitter thing is twitching. I'm still scratching at that itch out of reach. With no speech impediment in my Twitter finger, I tweet and retweet those characters of anger. Reply and I block it with smiling faces that erases the places on Facebook. I clock it like Flavor Flav in a fit of rage. Email in, post it and then delete it.
Social media ain't shit.
Social media ain't social at all. But then you turn on and boot up and log in again. Repeat. Memes that seem to be mean are meant to be. You wonder.
And you ponder.
Intellect without instinct probably won't get horny. Press ignore, or I accept. Inducing medicinal social effect. Woo woo, social media ain't shit. But I can go. My Twitter finger is itching like I'm on dope. So I'm scratching at an itch out of reach. Bloggers are bitching, so I tweet. Retweet in my speech impediment in my Twitter finger. I post characters of anger. Reply and I block it. Clock it like Flavor Flav. Smiling faces that erases. Places on Facebook. Clock it like Flavor Flav. Lamping in a bit of rage. Post it. Trash it. Then delete and repeat, delete and repeat. Complaining. Social media ain't shit. Reminding myself I did it all. I fall for it every time. You cross my mind, and I can't speak to you. I really can't delete you out of my heart.
Tip the feeds. Talk them into talking themselves out of seeking sobriety. Sober living sucks. One nation under sedation. Rehab or re-up. Oxycodone for those oxymorons when your habit abandons you. Your addiction disses you too. Look at you, left with that look on your face. It's pretty pathetic looking for a anesthetic.
Pain management. I don't know what to think. Pain management. How much more can I take? When I was a little boy, my daddy used to say, man up when I fall down. Later on, when I grew up, I found that I could stand the sound of being put down. Look around and just feel for yourself. Don't leave it up to no one else to feel for you.
You got a 30-day supply. If you lose, you lose.
Pain management. Stand for something or fall for anything. Man up is what my daddy used to say. Whenever he looked and saw me feeling some type of way. Pain management. Pain management. Pain management. Learn to deal with it. Learn to feel with it. I walk around with my feelings on my shoulder. They ain't cool.
Bend over, time to take your shots.
hear the sound of something going down. Feel like it's about me. What difference does it make? Pain management.
Ask your doctor, can your heart take it?
Learn to deal with it. Life ain't like you want it to be. Believe me, look and you will see. Let it be. Pain management. There's a pill for every ill that you can deal with. Don't believe that shit. Pain management.
Take me to the doctor.
Cause my heart is broken.
Gotta see the doctor.
Cause my heart's in pain.
Take me to the doctor.
Cause my heart is broken.
Gotta see the doctor.
Cause my heart's in pain. Pain management. Pain management. Pain management.
Pain management. Pain management.
We are back. Danny on everything. We are so happy, so proud to have one of our first non-musical guests. Not our first, but one of our first. Certainly our first non-musical artist. And I truly consider this young man an artist in what he does. This is such a thrill for me to have Chef Matt Hagel on the show. Chef Matt is a graduate of the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, majoring in culinary arts. He has 22 plus year history of working in the food and beverage industry. And since November of 2013 has been the owner, operator, and head chef of my favorite restaurant, the Chophouse on the Bricks in Thomasville, Georgia, for almost 5 years now.
Correct.
Chef Matt, so
you.
glad to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. You make it sound so elegant.
It is elegant. Trust me, I've been there many times. It's extremely elegant. And I have to say, just to put it out there, and I'm not trying to kiss any behinds here, my favorite restaurant in the world. And I do travel the whole world. So
Yeah, that's pretty great.
it's true. And I've had a chance, well, you know, I'm a little biased because I've had a chance to eat almost everything on the menu, but everything is amazing. So, a little shout out there, Chophouse on the Bricks, Thomasville, Georgia. If you haven't been, we're speaking to the genius behind the culinary experience there, actually the entire experience there. Chef, I'm always interested in the food world, in the culture of food around the world, and also in this region where we live, North Florida, South Georgia. Where did your love of preparing food originate? Is it something that came out of the family, out of the home, or is it something that came later?
That's a good question. I grew up watching my grandma cook a lot. My mom was always in the kitchen. We didn't go out too much to eat fast food.
Sure.
We always ate after school at the house. But I've always been like kind of a hands-on person. So I always knew whatever I did in my life, I couldn't sit behind a desk. It had to be something that I created with my hands. When my brother would watch cartoons in the morning, I'd watch Julia Child. I don't know why. I just kind of gravitated towards the taking something and then creating something of your own and presenting it.
Right.
So in a lot of ways, I look at it as an art. I always wanted to be an artist. I always knew that from a very young age, but I didn't know what kind of artist I wanted to be, a painter, etc. So culinary kind of fell into my lap in my teenage years.
So was it in your teenage years that you thought this might be the profession for you, or did you not think it would be like something you would do for a living full time?
Well, in the honest truth, I wanted a car. And my dad was like,
Gotcha.
I come from a family where we don't have a lot of money. I mean, I
Sure.
think we're, like a lot of Americans, we're lower middle class.
Yep.
So we weren't super poor growing up, but, I couldn't get everything I wanted.
Right.
So I wanted a car. My dad said, get a job. And I started washing dishes because it was, I didn't have to have experience. I walked in the door. I just started washing dishes. And really it just, stepped up in the field. Someone's like, hey, you want another $1? You can flip burgers. And it was yes. So for a long time, it was just a job just to get a paycheck for, I would say, about 5 years.
Yep.
All through high school, maybe a year out of high school. I just kept cooking because I had a quote-unquote resume at this point. I mean, I could go to another restaurant and be like, hey, I've worked in restaurants, so can I work here? And yada, yada, yada. It just kind of grew into there until, all honesty, I was hanging out with the wrong crowd, or I was the wrong crowd. And
Sure.
I, get into a little bit of trouble, and I had moved away, and I came back to my parents' house, and one day my mom had a pamphlet from Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale on my bed. And I didn't think anything of it, just kind of threw it on my dresser. And then, 2 weeks later, I looked at it and said, you know what, I think I need a change in my life. I think I need to get out of here, kind of, maybe make a career for myself. And hell, it, kind of fell into my lap as far as the going to the Art Institute.
Right.
And then it almost like manifests itself into a passion. It's like it's always been there, like brewing. I just didn't know how to get it out of me.
Right.
And so when I went to the culinary school, I was, everything clicked. I never paid attention in school before. I made decent grades without paying attention. But it's like all of a sudden I was into it. I was early to class. I was asking questions to the teacher, which I'd never had done before. So it was like I was having fun learning.
Well, something you cared about.
Straight A's, which I never had made straight A's. Like, all my culinary classes were A's.
Wow.
I guess I could say that, as far as like the top 3 of my class, so the teacher was asking us questions or examples for the other students because most of us were working in decent restaurants at that time frame. So,
right.
It's a lot of hard work for not a lot of monetary value. So at the end of the day, you have to be passionate about it or you'll burn yourself out.
Sure. Yeah. I can, not having anywhere near the experience you've had, I did 12 years in restaurants, mostly cooking.
Yeah, we talked.
Yeah. And I did a little dishwashing too, and a little bit front of the house, but mostly in the back of the house. And 2 things I always said about it is it's not for you if you're not willing to work hard. No. It's certainly not the job for you.
You can't hide. You can't slack.
No, you can't hide. No. There's no hide. Like, you have to be doing something, and it has to be something real.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. It comes out in the wash real quick. If you don't, it does.
And the other thing I said, just from being, this is kind of unrelated, but we can get back to this later possibly, is that being in the rock and roll business, so to speak, upon first going into that business and seeing sort of the ins and outs, the pros and cons, I remember thinking the only business that has more sex, drugs, and rock and roll than rock and roll is the food.
It's the restaurant.
And I think that there might be some truth to that.
100%.
Yeah.
I know the guys from the 80s like Jonathan Waxman and all those guys in New York. They were party animals.
Yeah, they were like real rock stars.
Yeah, they were. And in the 90s, it kind of started to transfer into like chefs are rock stars because, like you said, it's extremely long hours. And so, you know, there's a lot of drugs involved. There's a lot of booze involved. There's a lot of not sleeping involved. There's a lot of sex, like you're saying. I mean, so it's definitely, I have seen very talented people go extremely south extremely quick.
Yes.
Because you have to have your head on your shoulders at the same time.
I think so. I think that it's the same sort of realization as in the rock and roll world, where it's like maybe you can numb yourself for a certain period of time, then you realize it's actually doing more harm, way more harm than good, and you have to like be the guy.
Not trying to get personal, but I had a nasty stint for a while.
Sure.
And for somehow I still kept my career on the up and up, which is amazing, because I look back and I'm like, wow, that could have really been bad, but
I think your passion and your responsibility fueled
somehow overstated the
getting a little bit into and also I also wanted to ask you while you were talking. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. What was the first restaurant that you were washing dishes at? Can you say?
Fuddruckers.
Oh, Fuddruckers.
Okay. It's like a burger like chain restaurant.
Sure. Yeah.
So really. The other day, I told one of my cooks I'd never worked in a chain restaurant, and that was a lie. I have worked at Fuddruckers. Yeah, nice. I just thought of that.
That's interesting. Moving down the line, upon graduating from college and receiving your degree, tell us a little bit about your experiences, especially as the sous chef at Cypress, which is a restaurant in Tallahassee, and then as the head chef, moving on to becoming a head chef at the Miccosukee Root Cellar.
Sure.
How did those experiences help you cultivate your own future menus, for instance?
Great question. We skipped about 10 years there.
Sure, okay.
When I was in South Florida, that after culinary school, I stuck around. I never thought I was going to move back to Tallahassee. I thought I was going to stay in South Florida for the rest of my life.
Okay.
I worked for some really great chefs there, and I told myself, because a lot of kids graduate culinary school and they're like, all right, great, I'm a chef now. I'm gonna be an executive chef and make $100,000 a year. Boom, boom, and I was smart. I told myself that's not the case. Now I'm at a culinary school. This is the beginning.
Right.
So I learned. You know, and the minute I was at a restaurant where I thought I wasn't learning anymore, I politely was like, hey, I'm gonna go somewhere else, unless I can be sous chef or head chef.
Sure.
And, so I was able to be sous chef and head chef at a couple spots in South Florida, and really at that point I probably shouldn't have been in that position.
Okay.
But I got it, and so I learned a lot of kind of what not to do. And so if I ever was in this position again, I'd be more mature. And so skip forward, father got sick, moved back to Tallahassee. Really the only restaurant I wanted to work for was Cypress.
Gotcha.
Dave's a family friend. I know his nephews and nieces, and his menu was stellar, and so I worked my way up with him. In all senses of the word, Dave Gwynn is my mentor. He's the first chef that I was able to see that was a badass cook and then had a family. You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of chefs I worked for, they were really great in the kitchen, but their personal life was
a mess.
Control,
Sure.
Like, so I always told myself, like, man, I'd really like to be him, but not him.
And
so when I saw Dave, I was like, okay, that's the guy that I can base my quote unquote career around.
Right.
And then I worked with Dave for almost 4 years, and learned everything I could from him, and saw an opportunity to help Ruben at Root Cellar over there, and that was kind of like my test to see if it was the first time that I was going to do my own menu, 100% my own menu. Most restaurants, even when you're the head chef, sometimes you have a little bit of limitations.
Sure.
They have to keep some signature dishes, etc.
Right.
But Root Cellar was, when it's all said and done, that's a very special place in my heart. You saw it from the beginning.
Right.
I mean, and the next thing you know, there is lines out the door. It was incredible. And I don't take all credit for that either, because it was the music.
Sure.
It was the ambiance that Ruben set up. It was the farm to table movement, being able to utilize all the farms around us.
Right.
That kind of everything put together, created what was the great Miccosukee Root Cellar.
Right. And to throw a little of my own experiences in there about actually both establishments. The Root Cellar was where I first met you, and I was playing piano there 2011, 12, 13, and you were the head chef there, and we got like a free meal at the end of the night, right? And one night you made was it the short ribs? It was the short ribs.
Yeah, that was good. From Orchard Pond.
With some kind of hash with it, and then that runny egg that I always talk about.
Oh, yeah.
The egg, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I remember going
for runny eggs.
I went home, I was like, I just had the best meal I've ever had in Tallahassee. It blew my mind. And you were part of why I enjoyed going there, a big part of it. And yes, you were also a huge part of why there was lines out the door, you best believe. The other thing I want to throw in, I'd only been to Cyprus once, but here's an interesting thing. I think we never talked about this in all our conversations. Cyprus is the first and still only restaurant I've seen in Florida that has anything Armenian on the menu.
Cool.
They had akmak, which is like Armenian cracker bread. Lavash, like a type of lavash.
Yeah.
And even described it as Armenian in the menu. I'd only been there once, but I was like, oh my God, it blew my mind. So
great.
it's just something, it's just a little personal, but that, like, for someone who doesn't get to see it much around here, that was really special for me.
Well, I think you touched on earlier, you said something about culture.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, America, the cuisine is still developing.
Yes.
You know, so it's very much so a mishmash.
Yeah.
You know, and so chefs will take parts of different cuisines and cultures that they like and kind of mix them together and see what works and what doesn't work. And it still has to flow, you know, for a concept. But that's great that you see like little things here and there that kind of get you excited.
It really got me excited. And speaking of excited, I was even more excited when I had heard. Well, first I was shocked and dismayed when I had heard that you had left the root cellar. It's like, oh no, what am I gonna do? But not too long after, I had heard the announcement that you were opening Chophouse on the Bricks, which is, like I said before, an amazing dining establishment in Thomasville, Georgia. If I may say, also, your wife Kim Hagel also works there as well.
Yeah, well, she's
also a vital part of the overall administration as it stands.
For sure, I couldn't do it without her.
Right,
really.
Exactly. So the partnership of that and the beauty of that. Tell us a little bit of the story of Chophouse on the Bricks and why and how you got it sort of together.
It's it happened fast, but it's also 20 years in the making.
Okay.
So that's one of those things where, you know, it was hard. I think almost, and I hope Ruben listens to this, but he was almost upset. Like, there's no way that you could, you know, open a restaurant that quick. But the realization was, yes, like, you know, I could, because I had all the 20 years of experience. I always wanted to open my own restaurant. Like, that was the ultimate goal. You know, like some chefs in school, they were like, oh, I want to run a hotel, or I want to, you know, be on a cruise ship. You know, I was like, no, I want to own my own restaurant. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how big or how small. A food truck was fine.
Right.
I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I just knew that eventually I was going to get to my own point where I wanted to create me.
Right.
So after Root Cellar, I knew, like, hey, if I can, quote unquote, if this can manifest itself into the success that it was, and I think that now's the time. So once again, I didn't have any money, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I put together a business plan. The business plan at first was not named Chophouse. It wasn't in Thomasville. It was just it was just a restaurant. You know, like, I have a menu, I have some numbers that I put together. Now I need to start finding a location.
Right.
So location is the most important part of this all. A lot of people ask me, why didn't I do something in Tallahassee? But really, it was a combination of location, and I just wasn't sure if I wanted to do my cuisine that's very similar to Cyprus, to Sage, you know, to a lot of other places that around Tallahassee. But that was because I was influenced, you know, by these places.
Right.
I think we all have to feed off each other. And so I actually was going online. Kim and I looked all around Tallahassee. Place popped up in Thomasville, the place that we're at now. I drove by it, and I saw it. And it's like, it was almost like a moment. I was like, that's it. Like, the wood, the brick.
It's a gorgeous building.
It really is. And I was like, well, okay, let's kind of see, you know, what we could do here. And so I went home, and I slept on it, and I woke up, and I started to call people that I knew in Thomasville and discreetly start to add, because you got to be very careful with this. I had to ask questions about, like, what do you think's missing from Thomasville?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you think is overplayed? Like, what's popular? And so, Jonas is killing it with the thing. Lines out the door are crazy. So shrimp and grits, I'm like, all right, so seafood, man, maybe not. Like, let's not, although that's like a huge background for mine, I'm like, maybe let's not like focus so much on the seafood. Right. And that's when I was like, I worked in several steakhouses, some super high-end ones in South Beach and Lauderdale, and so I have a lot of background, on meat cookery and butchery, and I was like, well, where's like the steakhouse? And really there wasn't one there, like what I wanted to do. So I was like, well, that might be the key.
Right.
And a lot of the locals, downtown's on the bricks is what they say. So I was thinking, like, I have to name it something that people are going to look at it and be like, that is a steakhouse. Yeah. Instead of like Matt's, because it could be so like, well, what is that? So Chophouse just kind of popped in my head, and then on the bricks. And so I kind of, sketched out some stuff, went on the computer for a minute and printed out a business plan that my wife helped out with tremendously. And then we approached my uncle with it. My uncle he's an entrepreneur. He's made a very good business for himself in the computer industry, and he's very wealthy for his age. I didn't go to him for the money. I went to him for advice. To be honest.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I went to him to be like, hey man, you seem, because he came from nothing too. I'm like, you seem like you know what you're doing. What am I missing? What if you were going to invest in a restaurant, because you have to sell it. Yeah. Like, I'm trying to ask for a lot of money here.
Right,
like
sure.
6 figures. So it's like, what what am I missing? What if you were going to invest in a restaurant? I honestly didn't think that he was going to want to be invested. And he thought about it, and he was like, well, came down with a check. And I was like, no. Like, it's not what I want. You know what I'm saying? I was just asking you what you thought of it. And he's like, I think it's so good that I'm going to invest in it. And so that was the greatest thing. Without him helping me out, I would have probably still been just working, because there's no way I would have been able to save that amount of money. So, with that said,
go ahead.
I still was able to do it in a tight budget. I was able to utilize what was there, and like at first when we first opened, we're still buying things. I still have to invest back into your business. Yep. So Kimberly quit her career to come over and help run it with me. And I really wake up every day thankful, because it could have gone south quick. Sure. We're almost at 5 years. And every day I try to maintain and the consistency and everything else. And it's been a real tough road. It's up and down. Yeah. But it's a dream come true. Right. When it's all said and done.
And then also the experience for the customers as well. It's such a special, visceral, unique but familiar experience. It's something that people they seek familiarity when they go to a restaurant, and yet they want something that is completely one of a kind at the same time. It's hard to achieve both those things.
I think you hit that on the head, because a lot of times I'll see dishes, online, and I'm like, man, I really want to do that, but I don't know how to sell that.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know if that chef just put that online for show, or if that's actually on the menu. Right. So it's a balance of, yes, it's a steakhouse, so people are going to want a steak, but that's where we can get creative with the sides. Right. I think, and the sauces. Like, I try to, kind of use all my background in culinary knowledge to, put together the indigenous products that we have here, mixed with the familiarity, and then be able to sell it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of your sides, like you said, sides and sauces and those types of things are a huge part of the experience, but that does not take anything away from the simplicity of a perfect steak. Like, you make the best steak I've ever had in my life. Thanks. The best.
And I can't take all credit for it, because when I sat down, to think of what farms I wanted to use, I tasted 30, 40 different types of steaks from all these farms, from all these purveyors, and I picked and chose what I wanted.
Really?
I was like, that's the best friggin' filet I've ever had in my life.
Okay, so you just went into my next question, which was, what are the important cornerstones of quality in restaurateurship, in your opinion, and
Ingredients.
it's ingredients.
Yeah,
and that also goes to the farm to table concept, doesn't it?
Right.
Before I go into that farm to table concept, I also wanted to I almost wanted to answer a piece of the question I asked you from before when you had stated, it wasn't a particular place at first for you. It was a concept, it was an idea, and you didn't know where you would do it, and you thought about Tallahassee, but Tallahassee was at one point eventually foregone for something else. And just as someone who lives in Tallahassee, who's lived here for 15 years, and going to Thomasville my first time, probably to go to the Chophouse, to me, the answer is automatic. To me, my 15 years in Tallahassee, without going too deep into a tangent, my 15 years in Tallahassee were struggling to understand why they don't have, for instance, a centrally located theater district downtown.
Yes.
And usually the answers would have something to do with either the university, the football program, or the fact that it's a state capital, administrative buildings, and so on and so forth. But there was never any real good concrete answer, because you've got the land for it, you've got the property, real estate, et cetera, et cetera. There'd always be somebody, some developer, or some restaurateur, or some entrepreneur of some kind that's like, I want to do this. But in a place like Thomasville, for the people who haven't been to Thomasville, Georgia, because it's a pretty small town, even though it's a smaller town than Tallahassee, its downtown, to me, offers more artistic possibilities for the cultural elite.
Yes.
So, and I don't mean the financial elite. I mean literally the cultural elite. You don't have to have money. It's just an artistic center. There's always some parade or cultural thing going on. All the restaurants are intertwined with each other in some kind of way in terms of friendliness and camaraderie and those types of things. So to me, I think you made it's just kind of a statement. I think you made the right decision because of how that downtown looks.
Yes, and with that said, Main Street does an incredible job with that downtown.
Yes.
It's like they almost pick and choose who gets into where, because you don't want to have it saturated with a lot of corporate places.
Right.
You want it, like you said, you want to keep it artistic and crafty.
Mm-hmm.
The restaurants are. We are all communication friends with each other. Here's the thing. It's a small town. It's 14,000 people.
Right.
But there's a lot of old money, there's a lot of big money, and there's a lot of people that come through there.
Yeah, including big money in Tallahassee, not just in Georgia as well. The political elites, the people involved with the university. I've seen all kinds of people come to dine from pretty far away.
It's not that far of a drive, so it's more like a little bit of a destination for them to go kind of get out of town, maybe visit somewhere new. And like you said, a lot of people go there, especially on like Saturdays, and shop around. Yeah. And then come and dine.
Amazing shopping as well. And
everything.
I mean, I've seen people come from as far as Jacksonville and Valdosta as well. So Tallahassee, I mean, it's very short drive really in comparison. Now, getting back to the farm to table concept, I just want to know a little bit your thoughts on how it works and the pros and cons for it, not just for the chef, but for the owner, because it's not the easiest thing to do, but it's also the right thing to do. So why don't you explain a little bit about that?
Well, so I think every good chef wants to support local.
Yeah.
And usually if I have a choice between getting something that's grown from California or from the back door, I'm probably going to choose the back door.
Yeah.
From a lot of different reasons. One is, if you think about it, it took 5 days to get to me, so that tomato is now 5 days old when the farmer that picked it that morning, you see what I'm saying? It's so much more fresh. Second is I'm able to communicate with the farmers, and we talk about like what I want and how they grow it, and what I'm going to do with it, or every season they're like, hey, what should I put in the ground?
Right.
That's fun for me. I think it's so much hard work for that industry, and they really get pooped on a lot from the government.
Sure.
That the small farms is almost like a dying art, and I really enjoy the movement that's been coming around over the last 10 years. The con to that is there's a lot of people lying. I hate to say that, but a lot of people be like, yeah, it's farm to table, or yeah, it's all organic, but it's not. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's why if you go into my restaurant, on the board I list all the farmers that I use.
It's one of my favorite things about it.
It is, and some of them I haven't used in a year or so, but they're still on there. I'll use them again. I just want people to be educated in the fact that we do support them. Now, everything on my menu is not I can't, you know, I couldn't support it like that. There's only so many root cellars around.
Sure.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's a business, and so that is the balancing act. You know, what do I need to buy? I'm not gonna buy some, you know, GMO manufactured
Ridden
yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I have to, you know, and the volume part. Some of the farmers don't have the volume that I need,
Right.
or that we need. But a lot of my specials come from what the farmers produce. And then a lot of the bulk stuff, like my grits, I'll always get my grits from, you know, Bumpy Road Farm in Tallahassee, because he has, you know, his, you know, business laid out perfectly. So
Right.
he'll always have the consistency. I think that I wish that America would get more into supporting local farms and kind of push out the commercial farmers, if that makes any sense. Now, with that said, there's a need for commercial farming, of course. I understand that, but it needs to be fair. It's almost like they're pushing out the small farmer, you know, and making it almost impossible for them to make a business. And so any farmer that comes into my door, I try to support them as much as I can, you know, and especially when they have really good product, because around here, Florida, North Georgia, some of the most beautiful land available. Yeah. You know, so it's like, it only makes sense to use that product.
That's fantastic and commendable. I really commend you on that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's if I was so concerned with every little penny, I wouldn't have opened, you know, this type of restaurant.
Right,
So
exactly.
It's definitely, you know, a balancing act for sure.
Now, at the Chophouse, especially for the uninitiated, and not to make it sound like there is a bunch to prepare for, but how should folks prepare? Should they call in? Should they reserve?
Yeah, the best is reservations, and that's also another thing that we've been trying to learn over the last 5 years. We have open tables, so you can go online and book through our website or open table.
Hit them with the website and the number.
Chophouseonthebricks.com.
Okay.
Or you could call 229-236-2467.
Okay.
And that's our direct line. And we accept walk-ins too. So Kimberly's real good about leaving a few tables open every night.
Yeah.
The bars usually, we don't book the bar seats, so anybody can come in and eat at the bar. Lunchtime is pretty much just, you don't have to have a reservation for lunch. But on Friday and Saturday for dinner, I'd suggest trying to make a reservation, especially if it's more than 2 people.
Right.
You know, usually 2, we can get you in.
And since this is going to be for the June episode, I'm just going to throw out there that I will be performing at Chophouse on the Bricks June 8th and 9th. It's a Friday and a Saturday from 6 to 9. That's 2 sets of classical dinner music. So they have music, they've got great ambiance, great service, and most of all, amazing food. Here's a kind of a funny question, but also for like maybe the first time experience. Do you have maybe a recommended meal?
Yeah, sure. So my favorite is the duck, 3 ways. It's a duck breast, duck confit we make in-house with like a local field pea and roasted butternut squash hash.
See, I should have had you on last so I could eat immediately after. I could drive up to top. Go on.
But I think our top seller, and I probably eat it at least once a week, is our filet. It's the 8 ounce. I take grassroots coffee and crust the steak before you grill it. So it's really just like a little twist on like kind of like red eye gravy, and that was kind of my concept behind crusting the steak with the coffee. But man, it gives like a real nice note to it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you can't go wrong. I switched the menu seasonally.
Yep. Which I love.
Yeah, we try to keep it nice and fresh and fun.
It's awesome. Yeah. And do you think that's now this kind of goes into the next question? What do you think you make best of all the food you make? Is there something that you think it could be the duck, right?
So if you were,
if
you were to say, hey, I want to do a photo shoot, make one dish, I'd probably make the duck, just because
it looks
it's
great,
colorful,
it tastes great,
exactly.
all that
and
stuff.
A lot of people ask me like, how do you cook? How do you come up with these concepts? And really, for me, it's kind of strange. It starts with color.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people will start with the pig. It's like, okay, so I got a pig. What am I gonna do with it?
Right.
So I'll go to the market or the grocery store or online or whatever, cookbooks, wherever to get my influence. And mostly it's colors. I'm just looking. I'm not even thinking. I'm just looking. Something will pop out, red, orange, yellow, right?
Wow.
And then I'm like, all right, now I'm sure I'm probably gonna know how to cook whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's not like I base my dish off of red pepper.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, well I saw something red, so what can I kind of do with that? And then I think of texture. Like I gotta have something crunchy. Can't be mush, mush, mush.
Right.
And so eventually with those two things, and then the chef brain starts working. Like, you got to have a sauce, or, give or take. I mean, this is kind of up in the air. But, so that's where some things will just kind of, create themselves almost from colors.
Sure.
It brings back to the art part of it.
It totally brings it back to the X. I don't think I even knew that. And what do you make well now, but you hated making when you were younger? Because to me, you're
Foie gras.
Oh yeah, there you go. So quick.
The first time I tried foie, I think I spit it out.
Okay.
In all honesty, and now I think it's one of the most versatile things that you can use in the kitchen. And you have to. It's an expensive ingredient.
It's expensive,
and you have to be skilled, to use it. And I don't use it quite, as often as I should. But last week we got some, and it was, I love creating the dish.
Yeah.
Foie. I'd say that's a good answer for that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
The first time I had it was in Central France, in one of them valleys in Central France, sitting on a hill before the show, like foie gras wrapped in like lettuce leaves and like crackers and things.
A fresh baguette.
Oh my goodness. Now I know for a fact that music is a big part of your life as well.
Absolutely.
And what do you listen to when you cook? Do you listen to music?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of funny you mention that, because so if you look at like my vinyl collection, like half of it is like hip hop, and then the other half is just everything from classic rock to soul to R&B to like a little funk. Like it's like a little bit of everything. So
nice.
It depends on who's in the kitchen. Like in the morning, my sous chef Nick's in there, and he kind of likes country, but I don't like country music too much.
Right.
So we'll put on like Leonard Skinner radio or Steve Miller or something like that.
Happy medium.
Yeah, exactly. And then when my guys get in at dinner time, we'll play hip hop.
Okay.
But then on Saturdays I have 80s Saturdays. So we have to play all 80s music.
Okay.
Which one of my guys can't stand it, but it is what it is. So
That's
I can't. I've worked in kitchens where we can't have music, and I hate it.
Wow.
Like, some are open, some are like
open concept. Yeah, they can't
no
have
music during service. That's fine, and I won't be blasting it because I feel like they need to hear me. But it's on all the time.
Sure.
Yeah, it has to be.
That's
it's
fantastic.
I feel like my whole life there's some music playing unless I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's fantastic. It's amazing how we as artists can all kind of come, like we have this symbiotic, very cyclical relationship, I feel. Whether it's the actor, the musician, the chef, the sculptor, or whatever, and they all kind of come together and have some kind of symbiosis with each other. Like a lot of them sort of need each other.
Yeah.
And
I think it's because we're all working extremely hard to create something that we give to someone else.
Exactly.
So it's like we have to present it, and that's the hardest part about it. And that's why I like to stay in the kitchen, because it's like, if someone's upset, I don't want to deal with that. Like I don't, you know what I'm saying? It's like they're gonna say something that's gonna tick me off, and they don't understand how much time and effort I've put into this thing. So I'm gonna let Kimberly deal with that. And the same thing with music. It's like I've been there. I've seen concerts where people are getting booed off the stage, and it's like I feel for them. I'm not booing them.
Right.
I feel for them. I'm like, that's rough, man.
Yeah.
Or the same thing if you were to create a beautiful painting, it's like garbage.
It's
like,
one person.
It's like, screw you, but it's like that's what it's like we're almost like putting it all out there.
Yeah.
And it's hit or miss, man.
Especially in this new world of big media, social media, and all that.
Yeah. Which is a gift and a curse, man.
Yes.
It's great. It's great for the chef, because now I can take a picture of a plate and put it out, and millions of people see it.
Yeah.
Where before you'd have to come into the restaurant to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Chef Matt Hagel, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming to the show. Chef Matt, the head chef, owner, and operator of Chophouse on the Bricks on Broad Street in Thomasville, Georgia. And it is open
Tuesday through Saturday.
Tuesday through Saturday.
Lunch and dinner.
Lunch and dinner. I highly, 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 highly recommend that if you've not been here, it's going to become your favorite restaurant once you go, because you cannot order something that isn't amazing. You cannot. It's absolutely, and it's my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Chef Matt, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
You are listening to Danny on Everything.
which way. I'll feed you every which way. I'll feed you every which way. Something is wrong, I can tell. It's all I sing is sad, lonely songs from hell. I'll feed you everywhere now. I'll feed you every which way now. I'll feed you every now, yeah. I'll feed you every which way now. I need you everywhere now. I need you every which way now. I need you, baby. I need you everywhere now. I'll feed you every which way now. I'll feed you every which way now, yeah. I'll feed you, yeah. My rights to rock home. My only true pride. So Miss Baby live right here. She's gonna rip a new hole out your heart. Yeah. Just so Miss Baby leaving now. She's gonna rip a new hole out your heart. Yeah. Just so Miss Baby leave right there. She's gonna rip a new hole out your heart. Yeah. Just so Miss Baby leaving now. She's gonna rip a new hole. Rip a new hole. I feed you which way now. I feed you which way now. I feed you which way now. Every which way now.
Wow. Well, I am just flabbergasted by those amazing interviews. I know that I'm going to be going back and personally listening to both of them for quite some time because they're both just such interesting individuals, and I'm so proud to know them both. And I have to thank both of them, Mr. George Clinton, and of course his wife, Carlin, for all of their help and support, and for coming on the show at such short notice and talking about the new album. So happy. And thank you so much to Chef Matt Hagel, and also his wife, Kimberly Hagel, and everybody at the Chophouse for everything that they do and for all the great experiences that all of those people have given me. Thank you so much. And for the great experience I just got interviewing them both. Thank you so much. We're going to have more great content for you. The next episode in July is packed with great content as well. We hope that you continue listening, you continue supporting, and I just have to say thank you again to everybody involved. Thank you to Moose Magnificat, Carl Cerny, the whole Cerny family, everybody in Tallahassee who's listening, and everybody around the whole world who's listening. You can hear us on www.moosemagnificat.com. You can download the Moose Magnificat radio app. And to listen to older episodes, the archived episodes, you can go right to www.DannyOnEverything.com and just listen to any episode you want. You want to listen to the Lige Curry episode, it's up there. You want to listen to the first Sith and Synth, it's up there, and so on and so forth. So thank you again, everybody. Much, much love. My name is Danny Bedrosian. You are listening to Danny on Everything.